Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today is Metro Councilwoman Kwon Tay Toombs. She's the chair of the council's Budget and Finance Committee. Councilman Toombs, the council will begin its budget season this year, much like last year, with rising tensions and concerns over police shootings. As we're taping this interview, the George Floyd jury is still considering what to do in the case up there involving the former officer Derek Chauvin. There have been other areas, there's been a rash of recently officer-involved shootings, other incidents across the country. Are you concerned that we're facing another round of unrest across the country and perhaps even here in Nashville in the weeks to come?
There is some concern. Obviously, there's a spotlight on the criminal trial of Officer Chauvin in regard to George Floyd. We all saw that recording, and so those who fight for justice every day want a guilty verdict, and so. If the verdict is not some type of guilty verdict on one of the charges that he's charged with, I think that you will see some unrest because it will just be a continuation of what we've been seeing for centuries, actually, in regard to how Black people are treated by police and how we actually have two criminal justice systems in our country. So there is a potential for some unrest, and I think that will trickle down to Nashville. We had one of the largest protests ever last summer where there, I think, roughly 10,000 people marched through downtown in Nashville. So there are definitely people here who are watching to see how everything unfolds.
Nashville has its own police officer involved shooting. The murder case is going to come up in the next few months. That's the one involving former officer Andrew Delkey and the shooting of Daniel Hamrick. Are you confident the city's prepared to deal with the verdict in this case, no matter how it turns out in a few months?
I think in terms of having resources to deal with however it turns out, I think that we do have the resources to deal with it. Chief Drake has been very proactive in trying to establish better relationships with the community to try to bridge that gap between the police and those in the community who don't trust the police. So I think that, hopefully he'll be able to leverage those relationships and handle any unrest. But hopefully, there isn't a need for that.
Is he moving fast enough? Some people don't think he is.
Well, he's just gotten into his new position. It hasn't been long. I think maybe 6 months or so. So it hasn't been long. So I think that you have to give him the opportunity to put his programs in place and to see if they'll work. We didn't get into this situation overnight. Again, the distrust and the mistreatment of Black people in the criminal justice system has been going on since the end of slavery. So you can't solve that overnight. It's going to take some time. So I think we have to give him the opportunity to put his programs in place and to see if they'll work.
An issue that may come up, it was quite dominant last year as the budget process went on, was the idea of defunding police. In fact, it dominated the council's public hearing on the budget last year. Activists say they're going to bring that back up again this year. How do you define the term defunding police, and what's the council likely to do in that area this year? We actually increased the budget some for police last year to have a recruit class.
Right. There was a recruitment class that was in place, and that funding, that additional, I believe, $2 million was to pay for that recruitment class. I think that in terms of defunding the police, it depends on who you're talking to. So for some folks, defunding the police means to reallocate resources that we would normally give to policing to other agencies and entities that are better able to provide those services. So, for example, police respond to a lot of mental health calls. So the question is it necessary to send an armed officer to a mental health call? Should there be another agency that responds to those calls? And if so, perhaps we should take the resources that the police use to respond to those mental health calls and give those resources to that entity that's better prepared, better trained to deal with mental health issues.
As we move,
some folks.
Go ahead.
Sorry. And I was going to say, for others, defund police means just what it says on its face, that you completely dismantle the system and start over with a more community-based public safety framework.
To help the public perhaps better understand the budget process, you and some other members of the council have conducted some online seminars to explain sort of a budget 101 process. As we begin to get into that process, I believe those seminars you did still live online. Tell people kind of what they cover and where they can find them.
So Vice Chair Councilwoman Delisha Porterfield and I hosted an 11-part Budget 101 series. You can find all of the recordings on Metro Nashville Network's YouTube page. And then if you search for a community budget education series, all 11 videos will come up. And we covered a variety of topics. We talked with the finance director. We talked with former budget chair, Councilman Mendez, about downtown revenue. We had a panel of experts to talk about Nashville's finances. We talked to the various departments that are like the hot button topics like MMPD, MMPS. We talked with Public Works. So we tried to have a wide range of topics to address a lot of the concerns that we hear over and over again, and to really get people to understand how we bring in our money, how we spend it, and what are the priorities going forward.
Councilmember Toombs, thank you so much for being with us on the program. May and June are always the longest months of the year for the council, so I know you've got your work cut out for you. Maybe we'll have you back on the program again before the council finishes work on the budget and the tax increase, or the tax rate for this year.
I would be happy to come back. Thank you so much for having me, Pat.
That's Inside Politics for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you can be here again for a future show. If you can't get enough politics in the meantime, go to the NewsChannel 5 website. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there. There's a new commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you here next time. Goodbye.